Right. Oh, or not, apparently. Why are you not working? Or are you working? No, you are. Good. No longer need that. Okay. So, we'll start with a box of heavy hitters. Yeah, that'll be nice and easy. Right, and then we'll go over the news and stuff. Right, so basically, it is just the keynote from Thursday Australia time. I think it's Thursday Universal, right? Because it was late for us for once. But yeah, I like to just recap, and then if I've had any sort of new thoughts since just doing a video, right? Because usually when it comes out, I just watch it, think up whatever thoughts, do the video, and then usually extra stuff comes to me. But yeah, Heavy is actually my least cracked set, followed by Rosetta. I've finally gone through the majority of my cards and found out what I'm missing, majestic-wise. And a lot of it's from Heavy Hitters, so why not take a chance, right? See what we can find. I mean, a Balance of Justice, would be fantastic. That would probably be the top potential hit. But yeah, just getting majestic should be good. Keep the box so I can put stuff straight into it. I literally cleaned last week and yet my desk is already recluttered. Alright, let's see what we can find. So, ooh, the brightness is waning. I might have to shut my window. Right, see what we can find. I don't remember if there was anything substantial in the expansion slot. What cards and mechanics from Heavy Hitters are you most impressed by? I like Wager, right? Because it seems like it's a good level of agency for your opponent to interact with. It obviously didn't do as well, right? It's kind of hard. Clash works because of the big decks, but I don't know. I don't know how to fix Wager without making it broken. So think ICs where the gold isn't super contestable outside of like the gold baited hook or just raw damage. I mean, I guess your opponent not getting anything out of it's fine. But I definitely like the idea of Wager. Clash is just I mean, yeah, in saying that, right? Victor's done better than both Olympia and Betsy, right? So Clash is better, arguably. Course Tendency. First Majestic. Expansion slot. I would expect we see Wager return, surely, because it's an easy way just to, again, help with Betsy and Olympia without, diving into the expansion slot for it. What else did we have? We had Clash, we had Wager. Actually, the instant discard mechanic, right? Because this was the first set that really did it, and then Rosetta's done it, and now we're going to get it with the Reviled action that's been spoiled as well. So actually, yeah, giving attacks that flexibility, right, is kind of nice. Yes, yes. There's not enough Wager to go around. Right as you're getting into them, right? But surely people are betting on Super Slam, right? Kind of weird because it doesn't seem thematically correct for Kay or anyone to wager with that. And yes, Australian internet for joy. Ooh. Ooh, 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 ooh. Oh, the puns. Go Mercy, Rhina, and an Olympia. Was Olympia's ability the first time each of your attacks wins a wager, create a gold token? Yeah. That's also kind of a. I mean, they want you to wager your weapons so then you can attack, react, and get over. Whereas Betsy, buffs it in overpower. Oh, cold foil and second applause. Nada. And no M. I want them to print a trait count related to control no gold. That'd actually be kind of cool. Similar to the gold bait hook, but yeah. Something you can only use, right, if you're out. Because I think that was also another big thing is none of the heroes really have a way to spend the gold, right? So it's strictly there for the the draw and the cycling, so they don't want it to be excessive, unlike all of the Pisces heroes that have to, use gold for something. Well, they don't have to, but you definitely want to with Puffin and Gravy. KO, another Majestic, back when heroes were in the Majestic. Definitely a nice change. Olympia, nothing. I should probably pull out the Golden Glare, though. Been tempted to try it in Cheyenne. Kind of weird thing about the legendaries for Super Slam. Talk a big game as the Majestic. Weirdly enough, that is the one Majestic I know I have a playset of from Revered, because I bought it because it's a crazy effect, and I like crazy effects. No, I don't think we've done too badly. Foil and non-foil and expense, not so far. But yeah, so the legendaries for Super Saiyan, right? We have the Guardian pack coming out in a couple of weeks. So there's going to be, well, we already know there's a shield at the very least, right? Plus 2 other legendaries. So I'd assume there's a decent Guardian one there as well, right? Across the board. So for Super Saiyan, they could get away with, one Revered, one Reviled. Not necessarily a Guardian or a Brute one. But yeah, a flavorful generic, I think would make sense. Or something, they can use jointly. No Fear, that is definitely a good one as well. We're hitting the Brute stuff, majorly. Pitching 2 blues and the gold feels amazing. Yeah, pot of great. It is fantastic. 3 gold then to get the draw. Because even just floating the 2 resources and being neutral, right, is still really nice. No, nothing on the back either. I feel like we drew at least one more expensive card. Force, Clash, Agile. Oh. Maybe it is plus Guardian. Large path plus Super Slam. How are we not going to play Guardian until the next set comes up? If they remain middle ground, just have their hand picked apart by the overwhelming assassin representation. I did not expect as many news to just jump ship to Slippy. I suppose if you paid, whatever it is, $1,000 to $2,000 for all your cards, you want to keep using them. You want one more Majestic. Nasty's a decent one as well. Young Olympia? Yes, Young Olympia. Only going one adult hero. I want to say I have them, but I feel like I'd be missing the majority of the adults as well. Alright, lucky last pack. Hopefully an M. Nada. Well, it is an M. It's an adult Olympia. Not the best, but not the worst, right? Tenacity, I'm pretty sure no fear is worth something. A Boast, Show No Mercy. 6 wonderful, including the foils, right? It's definitely on the lower end. Now Cold Foil just beck and applause. Well, it's kind of weird because the new plays with the 2 to 3 attack mentality, and then that's what you get with Slippy. And it is such a mindfuck to have to worry about the first attack, right, and that free go again, because you don't know if they're gonna buff it or not. So I can understand how the playstyle is a little bit easier than with the marking and everything. Not to mention transitioning out of Marionette to one of the Spiderlings, for lack of whatever they're called. Agents of Chaos. There we go. Can be a bit jarring, right? Even though they're good value, it is definitely a little bit more of a difference than Slippy to New, I would say. But yeah, it would have been an easy counter. But I think it was generally, known that the majority of news would just be Slippies. Alright. On to the news, I guess. Alright, so article-wise, obviously Azalea has LL'd, and that is in full effect. No more Death Dealer, unfortunately, for Marlin. But you can still do a budget Azalea Marlin, essentially. What else? Super Slam, nothing new. Skirmish is new. And the Pro Tour. Oh, Keynote summary. You actually see this. Is it just the insert? It is... No, it is everything. Beautiful. So I know they have the Keynote summary from the live blog, or at least they did, unless they've moved them. It seems like don't need that. Beautiful. Alright, we'll start with the fun one, which is the Rock, right? So, I've only skimmed this, but I am very, very curious about it. So, that sitting there with no attack reactions and having your opponent... Yeah. It's just... Oh, God. Especially when it's one of the shit ones as well that need the attack reactions, right? Like, you see Bonds of Agony, and you throw everything out because and then it's not Bonds. It's like paying the backside into a mark of the Black Widow or whatever. That's a rough turn. The Rock is going to be very, very interesting. Oh yeah, when did Dash out? 8th. Week before. Did I miss a week? Yeah, I didn't stream last week. So yes, Pistol is gone from Dash, which I think Pistol was taken in Puffin as well. I think it was just generally better, right, than Spitfire, since, you want to keep your cogs for your other things. But I think Spitfire is still workable. It's just a slight step down. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Spitfire is taken in general. Yeah, so Pistol's gone, Death Dealer's gone, and then, of course, the hero themselves are gone as well. Curious if we'll get a new Ranger anytime soon. Where were we? Rock. Right, yeah. So there are ways to make Rock work, right? Get the resources floating, fill in the gaps. Deep Blue's like a one-time freebie. Gold Cracks, I think, is a little bit rough. Amulet of Ignition, I like how they point this out, but this is awful, right? Because what other ways do you have to get the rest of the resources? Because it's your next ability, so cards are fine, but you can't go, Amulet into Angie. You can't go Angie into Amulet, right? Well, no, it is instant, so you can go Amulet Angie before it resolves, I suppose. Pistol was go, yeah. Plus you could board in the go again pistol packages for longer games. That's what I was thinking. I think I saw, generally, pistol for Puffin. The one go agains are also interesting. So basically, this is more or less what you could do, right? Trying to make it work in most likely Reiner, I think, right? I don't think it... No, you can't take it as old KO because he's missing an arm. So the question is, what translates to Tough Nut at all? And I think the one attacks are fine. I still like the idea of just taking predominantly yellows, right? You play a 1 cost, you float a resource, and then you use Tough Nut. So in that case, these go-agains do really work. The problem is the 6 or mores, right? Because it just doesn't seem like there's going to be enough of them to do it consistently. I mean, you might as well go to Fabric. I haven't actually done any of the card counts. Where's Tough Nut? Also, while you're here, I should send this to you, but there you go. There's Scurv. Budget version, right? The only changes would be the legendaries, so you'd probably take Tunic and Crown. And that you can definitely make money or your life work reasonably well, right? Several times because you've got multiple Nimbies. I think it'll end up being a good Project Blue deck as well. Like, alternative Bolton, essentially. But where's Rock? It wasn't too long ago that I was doing stuff with him. Here we go, rock testing. So yes, currently, how many yellow 6s are there? Oh, and blues as well, although we know that off the top of our head, it's one set. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So you can just take all yellows. The problem with all yellows, though, still is you can't go one of these into rock, right? Because there's not that many one costs. I suppose if you have a 3, you don't block. You pitch 2 yellows, you could, but then you need the action point. So it would be a 6 into a 7, so it'd be a 13 turn where you can't block, and you're banking on scab skins to roll an action point, essentially. Feel like some level of block, and then... Although you get the toughness, so you won't be using the toughness, though, in that case. God, I wish toughness was slightly more value. Yeah, hopefully we get some better yellows and blues, right, to make this work. So, overall, before, blah, 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 where's it? As for future-proofing, there was a looming concern that one day there would be some way or someone that would pick up the rock and hurl it with ease almost every turn, which they've basically just designed themselves. So, very curious, what their ceiling has been in terms of testing it. But maybe it was okay for Brute to be strong, maybe it was okay for them to smash their opponents, whoever they might be. One thing was clear, they're definitely going to be one tough nut. Yeah, there we go. Beautiful. So it will be exciting. It'll definitely be the fun, flavorful deck from the set. I do feel like he will probably... Yeah, Banks, that would have been good as well. I think, yeah, that would have made a lot more sense because you're not... You can actively control it and then just use it when you get really good value out of it. Oh well, it is what it is. I was hoping it would just hit all attacks. I mean, just inverse of embodiment, not, the usual heavy hitters tokens, essentially. On a random card of 6 passion, you may do reveal a top card of 6. Would Berserk really work? Probably not. Yes. As I said, I skimmed down. Basically, look at the cards read like that line. But it would be nice to, How was it? It was taken against Prism in Reiner. As a fringe use case. I mean, that matchup alone will be really nice to just utilize it. But yeah, very curious to see how much support they directly give it and how much they lean to Tough Knight. Because aside from obviously just being able to pitch the top of your deck, Tough Knight himself doesn't really seem like he's built for that. He's built just for, a little bit of blocking and then pitching. Yes, Berserk is banned. Unfortunately, because it loops too well. Although, we could get similar to the High Seas with, Cogtane and get a little Berserk. Tantrum. Tantrum is Tough Nut. I don't know how they chop it up, but yeah. I mean, at least the fallback is you have really good equipment as Bruce, right, to block with. That's the other thing. If toughness affected equipment, that would have been really good as well, I feel. Right? You could get one piece of equipment every turn to decent block value. Oh well. And then for Skirmish Season, we have Skirv as a top prize. The Flying Highs I really do like as well. Processes, I think, a little bit gone in the wind. Because it's awkward in Max. I feel like, is it okay in Puffin? I guess you get the draw, and it's not that hard getting action points. I feel like it's just overkill. It's more of a win more card than something decent. Skirv will be fun to play for. Or to try and find afterwards, after losing. He still has Blood Rush turns. Yeah, but the problem is you're already a card down. Like, Blood Rush and him feels you'd have to build directly towards it. Which means you're taking the lower stuff. I mean, you could probably really have great Mandible turns anyway with him if we get off the whole rock case, right? Because, well, no, because your hand couldn't really clean up your hand either, could you? Because if you're having to pitch from hand into Blood Rush Bellow instead of pitching from the top of your deck, that feels a little bit bad, right? Because you want to preserve the card and then be able to stay at 3. No, go up to 4, right? Play Blood Rush Bellow off the top, get 2, discard 1. No, you stay at 3. I mean, I think he can be tuned fine if we move away from the rock. But where's the fun in that? Otherwise, it's just a yellow 2 essentially with rock. So unless you're stacking them, I mean, what would you have to hit? Because if you do take buffs, right, the idea would be you play a buff, you keep a 6, you pitch it into this, you float 1 resource, maybe. No, but then you have nothing to discard. God, let's try again. Buff, get a card out of your hand, just keep a 6, pitch from the top of your deck, get Blood Rush Bellow, get the +2 off of that, discard the other card, get 2 new buffs. That's a lot to line up, though. So, the reason with Tough Nut, I'm going with yellow, is if your hand is a 1, 0, and a 1, right? You can play the 0, you can play the 1, float a resource, right? And then as Tough Nut, use his ability to hit a yellow, which then gets you that extra 2 resources, getting you the 3 for your rock. And I just realized the numbers over here are off screen. that was my mentality. Because as great as all blue, what was it? 9 block, and then a 7 attack, right? Over and over. The 9 block isn't really 9 block, right? Because it's 3 3s. So, you know, your opponent presents a 4 and you go 6. Then they present another 4 and you go 3. And you've just essentially lost the value, right? Or any sort of combination like that, and you're sort of losing out. Although I guess the toughness does help there, but if you're taking all blues, you're not going to hit the toughness through Tough Nut's ability. And then if you're keeping a card that cheers to play, you're also not hitting the 9 block anyway. So it's awkward especially once you lose your equipment and stuff. So the reason for yellows is because there's more 6s you can take. You can still work rock into it by having the 1 resource floating. The other thing is you could take Tunic, right? And Tunic's a turn where you just block your hand, play buffs from your hand, Tunic, and then Tough Nut, hit a yellow, and still be able to rock. Yeah, play 1 go again into the rock, essentially, right? And most likely buff, or... What go again attacks did I take? I don't think I took any. I think the general idea would be Scab Skins if it lands, otherwise pitch the attack into a buff, right? Like one of the bellows. But it is still pretty much dependent on what else we get, right? From the actual set. I'm sure there might be some ways to make blues a little bit more worthwhile. Again, he just needs a whole bunch of revered attacks. Yeah, aggro's the worry. Which is, yeah. See, in the case of aggro, if toughness was, you know, not something you could stack up, but something that buffed you for the whole turn, right? That would have been great. Or I don't know, if it was something like it only procs once, but it's all your attacks for the turn, get +1, and then that way you could stack them up. It's just awkward. The bottom line to me is it should have been worth at least 2 block, because it doesn't seem like you're gonna get his ability consistently and then also, you know, get a cheer from hand, right? Because you're already down essentially 2 to 3 block because you're 3 intellect anyway. But I mean, if we do this, right, draw 3. So for instance, this hand would be try and hit the Scabskins and then Savage Swing, right? Otherwise, you could go barraging. You'd have to block, and then you could just discard the Bam Bam yourself if you wanted. This hand a little bit more awkward. You'd want to again try to go for the 6 and pitch both cards into it. Again, floating the 1 for the rock. This where you're trying to get to turn 3, so then at least when you get a bad hand, you can Tunic. This one's a little bit better, right? We get Rolling Thunder and Numbskull Charm. Like the one, Rock. I am a bit greedy. I do take some red, so. See, at least Quick Dodge you could work into the blue variant of Rock, right? Because, well, you're in all blue. And that's a little bit better, but it also it saves you one turn. And no offense, but you're not winning quickly with Rock. It is essentially, I would assume your opponent blocks with 2 cards and then sends 2 back your way, or blocks with 3, arsenals 1, and then sends 3, something like that. So maybe every turn or every other turn you're getting a damage across, right? With blue. So it is literally just a 40-turn game. And aggro will most likely stomp you easily in under 40 turns. So yeah. It's consistent value, but consistent value doesn't always work, which is actually another deck that I have. We're Marlin, yeah. So Marlin, if you want consistent damage, look no further, right? It's just create a harpoon off of Marlin, load it, gold bait hook it, and buff it by 12. And you can just do that every turn, over and over again. And it's just 14 a turn, but 14 a turn is fine until your opponent catches on and realizes, well, either they block it out, destroy the hook, or they just race you, and because you don't have any significant effects either, right, you're done. It's definitely great to take the reds. Most likely, if I were to, try it properly, it would just be a full yellow deck with whatever comes with Super Slam. Or blues. I mean, in Blitz, this probably works a little bit better. But yeah, just turn after turn. Utilizing Marlin's arrow generation, which is nice. 14 is decent. I mean, the whole point of the rock stuff is it's 16 consistent value, so it's slightly above. I think 14 is actually surprisingly okay. But we'll leave it at okay. Alright. So, for the keynotes. Ooh, I like this card. I like this card so much. Overcrowded. Ambush, it's nice to see it return. It's been a little while since we had Ambush. When was Ambush last? It was just the round the table, wasn't it? Yeah, it is literally just the round the table card. So, very, very niche, right? I mean, there is... God, what was the other card? I think it was in Heavy Hitters that you could block from Arsenal with it, or Outsiders. That, like, may defend. Yeah, down and dirty from Outsiders. So 3 attacks, essentially, well, for Ninja, that you can block with from Arsenal, but Overcrowd is definitely really, really great. Well, that's the thing. If there's a decent way to get that first starting gold, the majority of the buffs are still commons and rares, right? Commons and rares. And Dry Powder Shot, because it's equal value to creating the harpoon yourself. So you lose Premeditate, Seek and Destroy, and the Codex, Gold, and Loan. But if you have a way to get that gold, I don't know. Maybe there's something to it in Project Blue. Because then, yeah, they don't really have great ways to block in Project Blue. Or as great of a way. So yeah, so Overcrowded. Ambush, when this stacks or defends, he gets +1 for each different name among aura tokens in the arena. So with with Codex of Frailty, that's just a 4-block. A 4-block that you get to Arsenal. So the question is how you initially get it into your graveyard, right? To play around Codex. Because that's the only problem with it, right? You have to find it in your deck. You also have to either discard it through an effect or play it as an understated card just to have it primed and ready for those codexes. But once it is, right, then with Codex it's fantastic because all of a sudden, you could discard a 2 or a 3 and you're getting that +1 value on the block, right? So it really devalues that tail end of Codex, right? So it is a fantastic card to see. I think it's fairly balanced in that sense. Right? If there was an easy way to obviously get into the graveyard, then it'd be a bit problematic. Outside it's because it's unplayable. Is Codex even good with... So the Codex I take is Inertia, and it's really good. Because you can dump your hand and then you don't have to discard, right? So Codex is, if your opponent's arsenal is empty, then it's a discard on them, right? So it's getting that same value out of Frailty, right? Where most likely the card you put from the top of their deck into their arsenal they can't use. Maybe they can, maybe they can't. Otherwise, you get the Ponder, which then leads to an extra +3 on the following turn, and most likely with it, you're hitting a +3 yourself. So, yeah. Inertia is actually really good in this weird deck, right? And I think it's one of the only times Inertia's good, right? And then the Swing Big, which also looks glorious. Although I do like the Everfest art. The Everfest art was microtext, so I'd be happy with that too. Then for ProQuest Yokohama, cool, so we'll be able to win them. It means there should be a decent amount of swing bigs. I assume it's top and second prize, right? So top 4, top 8, whatever it is. Yeah, I don't think anyone has ever played Inertia, right? I think that's reflective in... Well, it's a $30 card, apparently. But yeah, because usually it's not good giving your opponent a free Arsenal card, right? Because it's not the guarantee that they can't use it. Yeah, Swing Big definitely looks cool. With the weird chip or post. It kind of feels like this should have been one of the columns from the arena, because he definitely looks like he's in the arena. I guess he brought it from home. Is it... Oh, where is it? Is it just swing a big tree? Right? Is it... No. You can do tree, surely. Smash with a big tree, no. I was wondering if there was any tie-in. It's just a guy with a big, kitted out mast. Alright, then products. That's sad. So the Armory deck, convention exclusives, the Prism and the Viceroy. Decks, very interested to see if they have Phantasmal and Creepers in them. It seems like they will, right? Because there's floating around Marvel promos for the Gen Con, and it feels like they're the Marvelized versions of what the artwork will be for the set. You know what, actually, there's Reddit. Fab Reddit probably has it, surely. Like part of a building. Ooh. I feel like it is meant to be just that tree. Can't tell if that's, growth or splinters, and then it's being fitted. Surely there. Yeah, there we go. Beautiful. I remember seeing them. So these are not in the Armory decks, right? Not at least in this style, but I would assume the legendaries have to be. It's kind of weird because the Armory decks themselves are just normal Armory deck prices, but they're also meant to be Living Legend ready, and I can't see how that's done without the best in slot legendaries for both, right? But they are equivalent to the Jarl deck. Where's... I'm blind, yeah, MSRP. Right, so MSRP is usually $40 for a normal Armory deck, and then $60 for an Armory deck Origins. So very curious to see what that does, but also maybe that's why they're Gen exclusive, unfortunately. Other than that, these definitely look really nice. They are apparently rainbow foil marvels, right? So it doesn't breach any legality issues. So no cold foil, but honestly, this seemingly is the better rarity. Definitely for the Prism one, right? Because it's Phantasmal Footsteps and Monarch was overprinted. Creepers, maybe not. I mean, Tails was just as bad, a little bit less. But yeah, they definitely look really cool. Can't get your leggings. I mean, you have a shot. Whereas everyone who's not in America has nothing whatsoever, right? I mean, they can't acknowledge caring about the secondary market, right? But they are really cool. It's a tough thing because on the one hand, sure, it's good if it's scarce because... Well, do I own any of them? I don't think I own either footwear, in all honesty, because I don't play Runeblade or Illusionist, so I don't think I care that much. Oh, Living Legend Ready is a bold claim. Yeah, yeah, it is. It is such a bold claim. Like, yeah. It's the only rationale I have for them not going, this is a $500 deck or something like that, right? Is that it's gen exclusive. I mean, we can actively see, right? I'm sure Prism's been played. I'm sure both have been played. We'll go with Prism. Has there not been any? Surely there's been living... I'm on the wrong Prism, that's why. Still on the wrong Prism. Awaken us. Yeah, there we go. Ooh. Yeah, I guess that's not bad. It's still, yeah, $700 deck. I mean, obviously, it's not going to have the Fable. I suppose heap versions of the Figments are fine. But it is really the legendaries. Like, I can't see how it doesn't have proper equipment. Like, the headpiece is the one that's changed. That makes sense, because Illumination. Then what about for Viz? I am very curious to see how much these will be and, what the printing will be. The count. Oh, there we go, beautiful. Still around 670 deck. Yeah, so... Yeah, and that's all on lowest rarity. I mean, they can... Bloodshade Skeleton, I guess, is fine. But yeah, there has to be either some degree of comparable card or new legendaries. I thought Prism and Renotes weren't great in the format because Guardians are like 80% of the meta. Yeah, I think that's still the case. But they're iconic, right? Well, Stravo still was the quickest, but I don't think they want to get a whole bunch of people onto Stravo. But yes, it will be very, very interesting to see how they meet this. Ready to play out of the box for Living Legend. Anyway, Spellbound Creepers look awesome. I really like the Reaping Blade as well. And we have Luminaris. Yeah. The angel motif isn't really my thing. I do like the golden phantasmals though. They look cool. The Light and Shadow convention exclusive box. Cool. Alone, we are but a single torch flickering in the winds of war. Together we may burn the darkness from the sky, or we might embrace the shadow. Explore its powerful mysteries. If the light is building, perhaps we should learn to see in the dark, live in the lights, or lurk in the shadow with the convention exclusive cards. So, I don't know. I think that's maybe a hint, right? For a Shadow Viz coming in Monarch 3. Yes. Right? I mean, these are definitely a bit more on that darker motif. I also will be curious to see if it's, just something they trickle out, like in a sense, the Prism statue. You don't want him Shadow? I suppose... Well, no, it wouldn't limit anything. It would just expand the card pool. It would just give him, some awkward banish mechanic. Problem is, when they do stuff like this, I want a full set of equipment that matches. So now it's just weird. You throw this down, and then all of a sudden you have a Crown of Dominion on top. I mean, they could definitely, like, Bludgy Skelter and the Creepers already match, to me. But they'd need to purplify Skelter. And I guess Grass match a little bit better. Oh well. Exclusive, exclusive. Ooh. But didn't he die or something? I'm not that caught up on the lore. What was the now you got me reading into it. What was the exact wording? We might sure. Or it could be weirdly he's helping them against the demonastery in that case. Brace the shadow, explores powerful mysteries. If the light is building, perhaps we should learn to see in the dark. I've always wanted to just do a deep dive one day, but yeah. I'm not a fan of books, to be honest. Live in the light, all lurk in the shadows with convention. Viscera killed the master of the monastery for the other rejected creations. Ah, okay. That actually does sound cool. To look into one day. Alright, so product-wise. Master Pack Guardian comes out in 3 weeks? 2 weeks? 3 weeks at this point, right? And we are yet to have any new spoilers. Yes, yes it is. Because that was one of the first things I did. Or attempted. I was going to do, like, read-alongs. But... and I'm, again, someone who doesn't like to read, so unless it's easily palatable, I give up. So there's still 2 legendaries we haven't seen from Master Pack Guardian. There's 16 Majestics overall, and we've seen 3? Yeah, we've seen 3. Well, I guess Velda as well. 4. So 2 legendaries and 12 Majestics we haven't seen. That could be impactful. And again, sort of, goes to me. They don't have to focus too much on Guardian on Super Slam, hopefully. Although, I guess the alternatives it was, initially, this was meant to be much earlier, right? And Super Slam was meant to close off the year. That's a pretty cool line. I'm at 1. I was really hoping we'd see pull rates or anything about it, right? Just even a nod at the keynote I was expecting. Because, Super Slam's still a fair while out. Whereas this is right around the corner, but nope. No idea, so yeah. I'll stay at 1 case, see what happens, and then I'm sure it won't be hard to pick up more boxes afterwards. It doesn't feel like, one of the other sets. You gotta cut the bottom off, stick it on top, and then just have a really tall normal box. Don't need that, don't need that. After that, the new demo deck for Bravo, welcome deck for Bravo, right? So Ira's gone, Bravo, pick them up, and Smash Palace at the tail end of August. And then we go into September for Super Slam. I do feel like this should have been moved up, though. Like maybe 1 or 2 weeks, but not either end of the month. Yeah, I assume that it'll be more focused. I mean, we've seen 5 Majestics out of the plausible. I think, actually, more so what it will be is the suspense stuff, right? Complete it. And then Lyeth can pretty much get away with general, cards. So he doesn't really need a whole lot of Guardian stuff. But Smash Palace will be fun. It's so weird that, yeah, they moved this up, but they didn't want to, move it more up, I suppose. Armory deck. Where's the card? Yeah, Standing Ovation. So this is from the Armory deck. Extra turn in Fab. But it's not a clean extra turn, right? So your opponent does get to draw up, which is definitely cool. Your banger of a Guardian spoiler. Interesting. I assume it's just going to be a musical one then. Not necessarily crazy. I think they just want Guardian Mass Repack as a vehicle for Smash Palace. So, but interesting enough, I don't know if many places around me are selling it. I can definitely find it easily currently. Case wise, I don't know any stores in Australia that are selling it case wise, right? Unless you go in and you say, can I pre-order a case? As in, I mean, doing the usual case discount or anything like that, because that's the only shocking thing, right? Because it is, for whatever reason, slightly higher, right, than half a normal box. So it's 85 retail, right? So 170. Well, no, it's not actually, because again, my mind's going with the fact that normal boxes still aren't at the recommended retail pricing in Australia. But if I could find a case for it, somewhat cheaper, then I probably would easily have bought more. But otherwise, I'll just wait, see what actually ends up in it. Last thing, I'd want to see is some Majestics that are the Guardian only focus for whatever reason, and that would sort of kill the buzz to me. I mean, so far, well, it'd be weird if this is all the new stuff, and then everything else is reprints. Okay, let's. So confidence and toughness are the new tokens. We'll start there. I should probably do stuff in order instead of going all over the place. So yeah, toughness. Start of your opponent's turn, destroy this. Then the next action card you defend with gets +1 this chain link, right? So destroy this chain link. Defends with this turn, gets +1 this chain link. Yeah. I'm trying to. If there's ways around that, right, where your opponent could just screw you over and eat it somehow. Yeah, you brought up, and then yeah, because it's a masculine word in Spanish. Eh, oh well. They do what they do. So toughness is worth 1. You can maybe get a toughness every turn if you tough nut correctly, right? So his intellect is no agency in what you pitch, because so far we haven't seen a way to top deck, right? Unless again they print something that allows him to opt. Even if his ability was like that, you could look at the top card of your deck and then pitch it and choose maybe. I suppose you'd always want to just pitch it because you don't have that. You don't have draw engines really in Brute. So yeah, so 3 intellect, no agency towards what you pitch, right? Just roll the dice unless you build around it completely. All that gets you a +1, right? So 1 card down for a +1 block. That's a little rough. Now, the question is whether or not you can easily get to 2 or 3. So far, we have his charm, which gets you another toughness, but we have no way of reusing him unless they print him a whole bunch of like untap yourself to tap again and pitch, maybe. But generally speaking, it looks like 1 to 2 toughness is what you're aiming for, which then still puts it, in the bad end of average rate, right? 2 extra block, 3 cards in hand, 1 less card. So instead of 3 block, you're at 2 block. Yeah, it feels like it should start off at 2, and then if you get to 2 toughness, you're at 4 block, and then all of a sudden you're above slightly, but you're still really awkward because you have to give cards from your hands. You're in a real bad position, right? They're definitely trying a lot of different things with Guardian, I think. Because so Brute to me has always felt like one of the best put together classes, right? AI stuff sort of got shelved, maybe it could come back. But then you have Guardian, and here's a whole bunch of auras, but agency is such a big thing in Flesh and Blood, so potentially setting them up is not the greatest idea, right? Rather just do other alternative things to gain static or direct buffs, like pummel or anything like that you can use directly and swing big on your turn. So very, very interested to see how Suspense is handled, if it ends up worthwhile, right? I mean, any part of hand seems okay to stack up a card, but at the same time, it feels like it might end up just usually too slow. Paper scene with a new art, tough nut, staring confused into a crystal ball. Oh, they could do fun stuff like that if they lean into his dumbness, right? Every time you opt, look at the second card from your deck, or the bottom card of your deck. I don't know. They can do playful stuff. That would be awful, but fun. I hope it doesn't die stuff. Mm. Yeah, it doesn't have. In all honesty, it doesn't have a place in competitive. Scab skins is okay just because it's such a high, right? And it's not that bad. I mean, you've got 1 in 6 is your chance to hit yourself. And you should be penalized for rolling a 1. But everything else is very, very lackluster when it comes to rolling. Like the high roller cards, I have no idea why they start so low. Because they don't roll themselves. You had to have rolled, right? So it's basically a blank, just intimidate, which is okay, but not fantastic. Now, Rolling Thunder is okay because, you know, if it fails, it doesn't do nothing. Then you have... What else? What else do we have? Bad beats. Yeah, bad beats. So you have a 50% chance of this landing. If it was, you know, gain a +2, and then if you roll, gain a +5. Something like that would have been a little bit more palatable. But it's the major whip that ends up just horrible. And then if Bonehead Barrier was a 0 cost, maybe. But I understand the rationale going. You can't just have a prevent 6 for 0. But a 1 for 3, not great. Especially when it, you know, low rolls. As someone who is a casual brute player, it feels like we can't get nice things because of Scab Skins and Blood Rush and Claws. Yeah. I can see that. Claws being the big thing. Which is weird that they keep just printing KOs. It seems like they've resigned themselves that Claws will be the Guardian weapon for all of eternity. Our Guardian now has an instant with block value, first blocking instant. Oh, that's an instant aura instead of go again. That's weird. Interesting. I suppose the players, for whatever weird reason, you play it on your opponent's turn, you tap PDs, you remove 1 counter, then it itself removes 1 counter, and then it goes away and you've spent 2 to gain a card. This feels like it doesn't have to be instant. Most Respite is 1, prevent 4, 5. Well, there we go. So already it's better than prevent 4, gain a life, right? Yeah. My memory works. But I suppose it is yellow, right? So it's meant to even out to Oasis, but at the same time, this is a common. That's a super rare. So it does feel like they could just redo all the dice cards and just give them a static effect, right? And then a upside if you roll highly. Something like that would be a little bit better. Or just reusable gamblers, where you get 2 dice rolls a turn. Although that would probably break Scab Skins, unfortunately. Right, confidence. At the start of your turn, destroy this. Then the next attack action card you play this turn can't be defended by more than 2 non-block cards. That is nuts. And it really should have been on the Harpoon Cannon, right? Confidence instead of overpower would have been fantastic. In general, probably just all overpowers should maybe be... Well, it's tricky because confidence can sometimes be better than dominate, right? Because it's can't be defended by more than 2 non-block cards rather than can't be defended by... Oh my god, that's... Wait. Sorry, it's just clicking that confidence is supremely better, maybe. Right? Because dominates... defending hero can't defend with 1 or more defending cards or defense reactions from hand. Does equipment still count as cards? Then do I more than 2 non-block cards? So either way, this could be, again, they use a defense reaction from Arsenal, that's 1 card. They block with 1 card from hand, that's your 2, right? They can't block with 2 cards from hand, move to defense reaction, and then throw on a defense reaction, like with Dominate. So it can be somewhat equivalent to Dominate, right? But they have a little bit more agency in how they want to organize their hand, whether or not they're utilizing something from their arsenal. But yeah, now I'm curious about the equipment side of things, because 2 non-block cards reads to me as they can't block with equipment. In which case, it's really nuts. And that would have been so good with the breakpoints on the harpoons. Such a shame. I mean, we have a judge we can ask eventually on Thursday. But yeah. Tick, tick, tick. Okay. Do really like confidence. Hopefully we see it a little bit more open-ended. Although you don't get any benefit, right, for getting more than 1, is the only thing. No worries. Thanks for hanging around. Alright. Well, we don't zoom in. You can read. In the palm of your hand, suspense. This enters the arena with 2 suspense counters. Starting your turn, remove a suspense counter, and then when it has none, it gets destroyed, popping and triggering its effect, although there will be some other ways. He's just gonna enjoy Singapore too much. Never come home. So when this enters or leaves the arena, you get to draw a card. So you're paying 2 to stock up a card, essentially, right? And it has essentially a 2-turn timer, but you can tweak it with our superstar friends, right? So instant tap, remove a suspense counter from an aura you control, and you may put a suspense counter on an aura of suspense you control. So you do have to remove a counter from something, right, in order to be able to put a counter on something else. So you have to have some other aura of suspense that you can take counter off if you want to put more counters onto this little draw engine, right, and stack them up. But still, floating resources and getting a card for later is definitely nice. And then you're trying to get to 3 so you can do standing ovation. So if you have 3 or more auras of suspense, if 3 or more auras of suspense have left the arena this turn, this gets, when this hits a hero, take an extra turn after this one. At the beginning of the next end phase, they draw up to their intellect, right? So you go, your turn, but your first end phase between those 2 turns, they still redraw, right? So they're still capable of blocking, but you can definitely, obviously, set a whole bunch of stuff up, especially if you're triggering, in the palm of your hands. The problem is so many cards have to align for this type of mechanic to really pay off. So in my mind, top end wise, you go 3 in the palm of your hands, they will trigger. You get those draws, you get to play standing ovation. It itself lands, and then you have what would that be? You'd have 4 cards then set up for your next turn, right? And then you'd switch to the easier to proc auras, like Bolden, for instance, where you get that +4, and you'd be able to stack a couple of them up to then be able to swing bigger. So interesting, but it's also fair because of the draw ups to your intellect, right? It's just whether or not you get enough of these, or is a suspense and they end up actually being worthwhile. Other than that, it is an instant, apparently, and you can block with it, apparently, which is interesting. I feel like this should just have go again, right? Doesn't need the instant. I can't really think, unless this is the last piece of the puzzle to then triggering standing ovation, I guess. Maybe. I guess, yeah, that's the main mentality, because you most likely want to be using superstar on your opponent's turn instead of your turn, so that you can control the triggers going into your turn. So she'll want auras that she can play on her opponent's turn to then have counters to move around. I guess that's a rationale. Now, outside interference, definitely an interesting card. I cannot see them going, super big into this effect, similar to what ended up being the case with Concealed Blade, right? Sort of always thought, we'd sort of branch out, and that was the next level of power creep, is just pulling more stuff from your inventory, but it's just Concealed Blade and visits the Golden Anvil, right? Olympia spec. They'll let you re-equip stuff from your inventory. But this is not equipping. This is converting this into something else. So instant discard this, you may reveal a reviled attack action card from your inventory and put it into your hand. So this could be really good, or it could just be okay. It all really depends on those reviled attack actions, because it's not any attack action, right? It's not fetch something that you could use actively to block well. It's not fetch like the overcrowded or something like that. Weirdly, but I don't think there'd be a use case to really pump up that defense. It is fetch reviled action. So first thought for KO, because it is a reviled brute action, is you have to have enough of extra reviled attack actions that you don't want in your deck, that they want as specific use cases. It has to be that situation of finding outside interference is better than finding them, right? So the flexibility adds going to certain matchups is fantastic, but this is not just, an extra 3 copies of something, unless you want the different color schemes or something like that, right? And you wouldn't normally run them in your deck. It is interesting in the sense that you could put non-6s in your inventory and hit them with this. Something like that would be kind of cool. It itself doesn't block because it's instant. You can discard it and then find something in your inventory that you're going to block with, right? So there's definitely a lot of flexibility here that it could be a really, really standout card. It just really depends on what other reviled attack actions we see, because so far, I don't think anything crazy has been revealed, right? We have offensive behavior. If you control a minor vigor token, this gets +1. It's okay. I mean, it's nice. It's a 7. It's a 0/7 if you use KO's ability. Otherwise, 0/3. What else? Guardian. Bully Tactics. Bully Tactics is kind of cool to fetch, right? On-call Intimidate. And you can bump it up to that 6 as well. It would be a 6 cost Intimidate 3/6. That's kind of okay. Blocking Blow. Most attacks if you have less life. Finding the less life mechanics are also kind of cool, right? Because then timing wise, or if you're in a matchup where you don't think you'll be going back and forth and you'll be on the losing end for every other turn or whatever it is, right? Maybe then not having them in your deck could help out. But so far, there's nothing super standout to me that really goes, this is nuts, right? If it was you may fetch an attack action card, then it would be absolutely insane, right? What you could take and what you could set up. Other than that, we have the Super Slam pre-release kit. Comes with a whole bunch of goodies. So these will be obviously purchasable, and they will be used to run the pre-release. They come with everything on screen, plus 8 packs, right? So it will be everything you need to play sealed. But then you also have the ability to, well, take it home, buy some, play with whoever at the kitchen table or something like that, which is definitely nice to see. The promos are definitely great, and I'm hoping we continue to see this level of free treatment, so to speak, because I do think these promos are definitely worthwhile, right? All 4 cards, if you will, are decent, right? They're not just limited fodder. They all have nice, comfy 3 blocks. They are rares. It was offensive behavior. They all appear, yeah. So we have all other and Vim. They all basically have this same static ability of if you control the corresponding token, right? So toughness or vigor for Tough Nut, confidence or toughness for Cletus, vigor, might for KO, or might, confidence for life. Where is his? Yeah, might or confidence for Lion. Confidence is also going to be really cool in Lion, right? Then it gets +1, and then on hit it creates both of the tokens, which is also really nice, right? So yeah, they are seemingly really good filler attacks for all 4 decks. They are specific though, so Revered Brute for Brutes so far on all of them, right? So Revered Guardian, Reviled. So they are just one-dimensional in that sense, but they are definitely really nice promos. They're all cold foil as well, which is awesome. And they are see-through, right? Send it up. But the equipment is fantastic. So all microtext, I believe they're mainly duplicate effects, but the helm is really nice. I went to check. Fisticuffs. Fisticuffs is attack reaction for a +1. So actually the arms are debatable whether or not they are better. But for the equipment, so we can read them, right? We have Toby Jogs. When this event, you may pay 1 if you this gets +2 this turn, so it's completely identical to Ironhide, right? So nothing new there. Punching Gloves, action, pay 2, destroy this next attack action card you play this turn, gets +2, go again. So that is definitely nice, right? So unlike Goliath Gauntlet, it doesn't have the cost requirements, right? So it is a bit hefty to pay 2 for 2, but still, it's something you can actively use on anything. Garland of the Spring is just Blossom of the Spring, right? So destroy this, gain 1 resource, go again, but still looks nifty. And then the Helm. Helm is cool. So Helm of Hindsight. Instant, pay 3, destroy this, and put a target attack action card from your graveyard on the top of your deck. And it is generic. So this works in everyone, right? So just a nice fetcher specific card is just awesome, right? I can definitely do wonders with this. My mind goes straight to Final Act Melody, right? Easily setting up the final act, especially in the sense of draw. Adding to the pitch stack for the final act is definitely nice. Or Cheyenne with Arc Lightning and the Go-Agains, being able to fetch, I don't know, Line Strike with its Go-Again, or its draw, depending on if you've given it Go-Again. What else? There's lots of targets that this just works wonders in, right? It's a real good setup piece. It's similar to the Plume of Evergrowth, which does see play. It's a little bit slower because it puts it on the top of your deck, but still, the fact that it's any attack action card is definitely nice, right? So yeah, some really cool equipment pieces. Helm Victor, pay 3 and Clash, put gold. Oh god. Oh yeah, there you go. See, I'm pretty sure if you comb through, you could find a specific use case for everyone, and it would be semi decent. But yeah, that's definitely a gross one, right? So yeah, well, Golden Sun, right? So when you win a Clash revealing this, you get to create a gold token. So that's already nuts. And then, yeah, the ability to clash with it, draw it, play it, using the gold you've just done. Yeah, pretty strong. Pretty strong play. But awesome equipment. And then token-wise, we have the heroes, each on the flip side. So probably Revered, Reviled, Reviled. And then it'll be Vigor, I would assume Toughness, Might, and Confidence, right, as our 8 tokens. I do want to just... Where was it? I think it was product releases. Or Super Slam. And here, beautiful. 9 promo cards. 4 basic, 1 cold foil, 5 cold foils. Yeah, so you get the equipment, 1 random, and then your 4 basics. I did think it would have been funny if it was a weapon, but it's not. So we are doing fisticuffs. So there will probably be some sort of macro that lets you swing for nothing, maybe. Or maybe we're just completely hell-bent on attack action cards, and no one gets a weapon. Other than that, I guess pricing-wise. So it's $60 for 8 packs and promos, so I am actually a little bit curious. What does that work out to? I'm using Australian because I know packs for Australia, roughly. So $7.50 a pack with the promos. So that's actually fairly good, right? I mean, a booster box is now meant to be at $175. So you can still find them for a little bit cheaper. And that works out to $7.30. So 20 cents times 8 is $1.60. No, there's no way I did that right. 20 cents times 8. Either way, you're paying 20 cents a pack more for all the promo stuff. So fairly reasonable. Yeah, no, it is. It's $1.60 for the promos, essentially, off the packs. Off of just buying packs. So yeah. We'll see what they actually land at, but it does look decent enough. Obviously, I would assume, well, we can go back to that page. For all stores, though, it'll be this plus whatever the running fee is for the event. Cover electricity, cover whatever the store needs, right? So, yeah, so it'll probably be a little bit higher, but also, if there's excess, you'll be able to pick them up off the shelves and get yourself some extra promos. Because I assume people will want sets of these promos, especially since they are in cold foil. On that, we have cosplay. Now, we don't have the ability to reveal, but I am very curious. So, I don't think many people have actually looked into it, but fabrics do exist, right? And they are part of Taylor's effect, I believe. Like, good spell. No, they're just extra cards. So, Taylor herself has a nifty effect. So I'm kind of curious, even though it's not legal, what our new necromancer friend will have. So Frankie Makes Ends Meet is the new cosplay promo starting at the event after Montreal, right? So we have the world premiere for Super Slam in Montreal. It'll be the last chance if you're a cosplayer to try and earn yourself a tailor, right? And then after that, it will be Frankie Makes Ends Meet, and it's definitely some really nifty artwork. Kind of sad that it might just be a promo because it feels like she could have a cool ability, right? A whole bunch of animated marionettes. What else? Just armor sets, fabric, right? That could be nifty. All right, so I think that's the majority. Was there any other cards we missed? I think we've done them all, right? Equipment-wise, overcrowded, and all the other stuff was previously revealed. Yeah, cool. Why exclusive? Well, again, we probably said most likely because, you know, they will hopefully be actually Living Legend ready. Ideal pick up and play at Living Legend, Armory Events, Skirmish, and beyond. Rare collectible gift. And then, yeah, just... It's not too far away, so we'll be able to see what's in them soon enough. That's another thing. We bypassed all the current releases and gone straight to Super Slam. Right? Nothing new about Master Pack Guardian. We have the headpiece from this, but that's it, right? And then we also have the Armory deck for Pleiades. These. Yeah, Pleiades. Interesting. What do I feel like there? No, it was just the note that there would be super rares in that. I guess that's the other thing we talk about is the pull rates for a little bit. I should have everything I made for videos somewhere. This one. But it doesn't really matter. Just go through the assets. How to do this? Suppose you guys can be okay with a little black screen. Alright, hopefully they're not cut off too badly. Let's find the ones that we do want to talk about. Well, I suppose it's still relevant. I think this is a later video. So the expansion slot has 31 cards, right? And the whole wording of several key reprints. So it's at least 2, right? So up until now, we had Codex and we had Command and Conquer, right? So that was 1 apiece for High Seas and the Hunted. We go all the way back to Bright Lights, right? We had Foundry Heart, although I can't remember if that was in the expansion slot in Tunic, right? But yeah, so several could be 2 or could be more. We take a look at legendaries. So again, I think Brute has probably one of the best packages where I wouldn't say they necessarily need anything specific for Brute, right? And then similar Guardians in sort of the same use case, right? They have great options across the board, defensive or offensive gear. So that kind of just leaves Reviled and Revered, right? Generic as well. We didn't get a generic in High Seas, and I guess an offensive leg piece is what's really missing here, right? Or an offensive chest piece. But I guess Tunic sort of covers that, right? You have Fortress for defensiveness, Tunic for non, Helmwide, definitely sorted. And then Arms, Van Brace and Stonewall, not the greatest, but, you know, you should be dipping into your class-specific stuff. So I guess the only thing missing would be an offensive leg piece. But, you know, a reusable something like Snapdragon Scalers would be insane, so I can't see them doing something like that. And Go Again is generally the offensive ability on legs. So, yeah, when it comes to legendaries for Super Saiyan, not much comes to mind, right? So, I'm sort of thinking it'd be 1 Revered, 1 Reviled, maybe a Guardian headpiece, because that's kind of what's missing. Or we get, you know, something just fun and flavorful, leaving 2 legendaries for the expansion slot, right? So that could be just our 2 several reprints, right? 2 legendaries. I don't know what Majestics fit. Yeah, again, something like Balance of Justice to me would kind of make sense because it's kind of up there. In terms of Majestics, here's the most costly cards currently, right? So Shelter, Felling, Warmongers, The Weakest Link, Hunter's Clave. And if I were to just, pick 2, it'd probably be Warmongers and Weakest Link, I guess, right? As legendary reprints, and they sort of fit the theme. But, we were expecting Shelter in High Seas. We didn't get it. It's probably not in Super Slam. I'm guessing they didn't think it would be as insane as it is, but, they should have because it's, I mean, Sync Blow does well, and it's readily available. It just came out in the Ira Armory deck. It's in the Dromai Blitz deck. Yeah. The rationale for Shelter is it should have been a Majestic, but anyway. So, yeah, Majestic-wise, I can't think of anything that's super necessary. Again, Legendary-wise, maybe Balance Justice. There is the weird thought that, rares and commons could maybe fit the bill. Run Roughshod. I'd like to see Run Roughshod in the set, right? Because it seems like it's fitting. These are all product exclusive cards, all product exclusive rares, I should say. Right, so Run Roughshod is the KO Armory deck, Canopy Shelter, Terra Blitz deck, Oyston, Loot, Gravy, Flourish is also the Terra Blitz deck. Boulder Drop. I want to say around the table. Run through. I have these, and I've been meaning to open them because I need the playset of. Is it Glistening? So I have multiples of the classic battles to crack. And then Growl was also around the table. But yeah, these are all $+ rares, so I don't know. They kind of fit the bill for key reprints, in some sense. Every time I play Shelter, I usually think this feels like a worse sync. Well, yeah, it is. Literally. It's just the static 4. But the idea is, you take it into aggro, and now you've got 3-4 blocks, right? Essentially, because of the prevent 1. So it's the flexibility it offers, but yeah, at the same time, in that sense, I wouldn't say it's, majestic power, right? It's flexible enough that it should be probably allotted with these 2, right? With Sync and Fate. Although, well, no, Fate is kind of worse Sync to some degree. It's better to have debatable, depending on the use case. But yeah, it being a majestic is obviously gross, right? How much was it? $85. God. And is just, especially for Assassin, right, with the flicks, kind of mandatory, right? Because then you get the flick prevention, and you get 2 more 4 blocks out of it, most likely. Yeah. Bad to a Pulp is the other card. So, Bad to the Pulp, the exact wording, I believe, was it won't be in our Mastery Pack Guardian, but in other avenues, and those avenues are the ProQuest events, Gone and Past, and Gen Con, but there was no mention of it not appearing in Super Slam, and I do think it would be fitting for it to be in Super Slam, and if it's not in Super Slam, just as a non-foil Majestic, I would be kind of bummed, right? It should be in the Mastery Pack Guardian, in all honesty, considering its legality. But yeah, hopefully it's in Super Slam. Promising Terrain, Draw a Crowd are in the Mastery Pack Guardian, so they're fine, right? They're not reprint worthy yet. Done the Tough Nut stuff. 5 out of 11 Majestics possibly revealed so far, which is also pretty insane, right? Where, again, still a set out if you count the Mastery Pack Guardian, and we know, the inset stuff. I guess that the expansion slot is what they really want to keep under wraps, since it is massive and should have something for everyone, right? It should be the main way people stay invested. So August, right, is when they will all be revealed, hopefully, or at least the majority. But yeah, still, the idea that, potentially 5 of the 11, although, again, that's assuming that all 31 expansion slot cards are Majestics. So if we take out 2, because they're legendaries, perhaps, right? That'd be 5 out of 13, which is still, close to half, right? Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Such a majestic light set. Hopefully the super rares do really make up the impact. Was that not on the summary? I don't think it was. Did I not scroll far enough? I didn't scroll far enough. Yeah. So Project Klloo coming 2026, right? And probably replacing Blitz, maybe replacing Blitz. It'd be kind of interesting. Although, I don't think there's a huge difference, right? If they swap Blitz to just being Living Legend Blitz, no, that wouldn't make sense. I'm curious to see how they do this in the sense that they could just roll out a big ban list for Blitz and call it a day, right? Keep the scoreboards. It'd be kind of bad if they do, because obviously there's heroes that have LL and Blitz, so it does feel like it will be a clean reset, right? And we just go into Project Blue. But I don't know. I'm on the side of the coin that I am hoping it just kind of replaces Blitz, right? It should just make those Blitz games feel a bit more fulfilling, a bit more of a good back and forth, and probably just a better entry point into Flesh and Blood, because Blitz has definitely gotten way past Classic Constructed, right? In terms of diverting from the breakpoints, the blocking, the mechanics, and the feel, right, of that big drawn back and forth battle of Classic Constructed. So yeah, I don't want to see Blitz go away completely because there's still fun to be had, but it should be a nice change. Essentially, what we've gone over. Sorry, these are all just my assets that I make for videos, right? Here's the big one. So, all rights from stats, right? So, welcome to Rathe all the way to high seas. Essentially, we've been going on an upward trend of how much product needs to be opened in order to supply the same amount of playsets. So, welcome to Rathe and Arcane Rising. Collectively, as a community, we take 360 packs, right, to supply a playset of Majestics, right? 1 in 12. There was 10, so 120 times 3, 360, right? Now to high seas, it takes 480, so a 35% increase. So collectively, we have to open, how many more is that? Is that 5 boxes? An extra case? It's down the bottom, yeah. It's an extra case and a bit, right? So yeah, it's a little bit rough, but pricing-wise, hasn't inflated as much as you might expect, I suppose. So there is that sort of silver line, but this is definitely something I'd like to see retracted or at least maintained. If it just keeps growing and growing and growing, then that's a little bit of a concern, right? But we are getting super rares back in Super Slam, so the question is, what will their rates fall to? So rates throughout the era, right? Majestics and Supers, 1 in 12, 1 in 6, right? Collectively, that's 1 in 4. You get 6 per box, roughly, not including Rainbow Foils. Then through Klloo to Dynasty, condensed, just Majestics. The count is basically the same, right? We have been slightly increasing by count. That's another thing I should probably point out. The pull rates haven't dramatically changed. It's the pull count, of Majestics that have been the rising issue, if you will. Hey Riddler, I'm going well. Looking forward to watching the Doomsday Cup, right? Awesome. You're doing it at an LGS, right? Yeah, be awesome to see it. I assume you're recording it, right? Hopefully. But yeah, so it's not necessarily pull rates. They have gone up because of the expansion slot, but collectively with the expansion slot, it's still 1 in 4. Right? It's just the amount of inset Majestics you're getting versus expansion slot Majestics, but it's the total count of Majestics that are a little bit worrisome. So Outsiders Outlier 1 in 5. Most likely because we have the dual class card, so the thought was, well, we can decrease the pull rates because, it's going to fit 2 niches in that sense. Bright Light's debatable whether or not the expansion slot affected the Majestics, going off of what they declared the rares at, right? So Majestic replaces a rare. It didn't. So potentially that has a higher pull rate of Majestics. Then where we're at now is 1 in roughly 6 packs for an inset Majestic, and 1 in 12.5 packs for a expansion slot Majestic, which still then maintains that 6-ish per box, right? Not including Rainbow Foils. And Rainbow Foils were declared since heavy hitters at 1 in 18. So, yeah, the question is, what will Super Slam bring with the introduction of Super Rare? So, we have the counts roughly. Again, I'm using the idea that all of the expansion slot cards are Majestics, right? So, this could be more like 13, 40, 29, something like that, right? But going off of those numbers, we have a few different options, if you will. So again, 1 in 6 and 1 in 12 became 1 in 4, right? So collectively, that's 3 in 12. You get 1 Majestic, 2 super rares, right? So 3 in 12, that becomes 1 in 4. If we were to reverse engineer that using what we currently have for inset Majestics, because again, pull rate wise, when you open a pack, right, you'll have your 2 rares and your token, right? One of those rares can be a super rare or a Majestic, and then that token can be a expansion slot Majestic, right? So the expansion slot Majestic to me is still separate. So if we were to then go from 1 and 6 back up to the enjoined rate of Majestics and Super Rares, it'd be 9 to 18, right? So 1 and 9 and 1 and 18. I think that's really far-fetched, and I don't actually think these will be the rates, but there's still some, in a sense, saving grace to that, right? So for reference, 1 and 18, 1 and 9 means it's 3 and 18, which then converts back to 1 and 6, right? So still level overall, but it would mean that the amount of cases would be 6, right? For Majestics, that'd be a slight increase. Super Rares would be ridiculous since the count is 40 currently. We don't know how many of them are going to have the legendary keyword or anything like that, so that count could also be reduced, right? So for reference, every legendary keyword means it's 1 less playset, or it's 2 less cards per playset is what I mean, right? And then, we know the rate of 1 and 6, that's what's being declared as the expansion slot. So that puts them at about 6 cases, which is still, again, an increase, right, from high Cs, unfortunately. So we are hoping that the overall count is not exactly 31 for the expansion slot. So yeah, overall, that's still 8 pulls per box, right? Though you are getting more super rares, I guess, than Majestics, right? So the combined rate would be 1 and 3, which then means that overall, we are counting all of these cards as hits, right? Stuff we actually want as play pieces. The overall rate is then reduced, which is, I guess, nice, right? Now, if we were to return to the exact first rates of Welcome to Rathe and Arcane Rising, so Majestics at 1 and 12, Super Rares at 1 and 6, and Expansion Slot Majestics at 1 and 6 as declared currently, then, it looks a little bit better, right? So 4 cases to find your Majestics, 7.5 to find your rares, Super Rares, right? So that's still the issue because that is just a huge count of 40. And then, again, the expansion slot is declared. So 10 pulls per box or 1 in 2.4, right, to hit something, which is definitely nicer, right? I think the overall feel that they're probably going for is to get something for draft or limited every single time, right? So as long as it's under 1 in 3, it should be happy. If we match high Cs, right, so trying to get the case amounts to that 5, it means the Majestics fall to 1 in 14.5 and the Super Rares to 1 in 4, which is still, somewhat fair. 1 in 2 per pull, right? So you'll definitely, hopefully, find something for your limited experience. Now, I think a little bit more realistically to me is something more like this. The Majestics probably won't be 1 and 6, but a man can dream, surely. So 1 and 6, 1 and 2, and 1 and 6, right? So 2 cases to find your inset Majestics, 2.5 to find your Super Rares. The big hang-up will still be the expansion slots, which the rationale for that is because there's something for everyone. This is meant to be the driving force, if you will, to sell boxes. So having them harder to collect maybe has some merit to it. But the combined rate would be 1 in 1.2. You get 20 pulls per box, 12 Super Rares, and 8 Majestics, so it'd only slightly be better than what it is now. Shelter is a worse sync until you get to fit more cards by compressing inventory slots. Yeah, it's the flexibility and utility of it. All right, so realistically, this is probably where I'm at, right? 1 in 12 for your Majestics, 1 in 3 for your Super Rares, so you're still most likely hitting 1 every draft, right? 2, 3 for your sealed. And then the expansion slots actually being more around 1 and 8. The reason I say 1 and 8 is because, again, if we tack on legendaries in the expansion slot, then overall that's going to reduce the effective pull rates for specifically expansion slot Majestics. But these are definitely, a little bit nicer numbers. So we're basically falling back to Welcome to Rathe and Arcane Rising rates, right? By the excessive count of super rares, it still works out to the same as Welcome to Rathe and Arcane Rising. But again, the big draw will be the expansion slot, right? Since they will be a little bit harder to find and collect, right? So yeah, it means maximum-ish fund for limited draft, but the big chase element will be the Majestics for the expansion slot, which could, end up having something big and breakaway. I doubt we see, generics or anything universal in the expansion slot, which is definitely one of the big factors that, drives up price. So hopefully. But yeah, I think this would be somewhat okay. So combined rate-wise, right, 1 in 1.85 for a Super Rare or Majestic, right? So again, definitely hitting that every draft, every limited. But overall for Majestics, if we take out the Super Rares, means it goes up to 1 in 4.8, right? Which is not horrendous. It's only a slight increase, right, from that 1 in 4 for Majestics. But obviously you're getting Super Rares, and that's the big thing. Aside from that, Master Pack Guardian. I think I've gone over this before. yeah, it's so weird that we only have one legendary, and was it 4 of the Majestics? But yeah, pull rate wise, I'd like to see it at 1 in 4, but overall that means it'd be easier to collect than a normal set. I assume it's probably going to be about 1 in 5. 1 in 6 would mean it sort of matches the current pull rate for Majestics, because it doesn't have any expense lock cards, right? It's also 70 new cards, so I think that's a little bit over half of the set, 100 something, right? So there will be a hefty amount of reprints, most likely, or old Guardian cards, most likely to fill out Crack Shuffle play. I think that's all the assets I have prepared. Beautiful. Cool. So I think that's a decent enough stopping point then. Yeah. I think that's basically everything to go through. We're gonna have a quick look-see if we've missed anything, but I think covered, opened the box, covered the keynotes. What else? Hey, you know what? My phone's still on. I think my phone is still on. We might as well crack open these classic battles. This is an unfortunate product because it's something I wish they had continued. I do really like it. Right, good old classic battles. It's an awkward box for one. That commitment for 2 decks, I think the price point was a little bit off, but it does have some goodies. It's I don't know. Has anyone opened a Armory deck yet? A little bit shafted, right? Especially coming off of the Gravy Bones ones with the nice insert, but none of the cards have a Rainbow Foil variant, right? Aside from equipment. So it's, yeah, a little bit sad. They took away my cling wrap off the first one. It's already sad, but now it's just, big bulky box for a tiny little thing of cards. I guess it's usually the case. They want a yoink space from everyone else. I hope the expense slot hits M's and L's more often for sure. Yeah, I'm hoping it is actively at that 1 in 6, but LSS do like to declare combined rates more so. But yeah, so this is lovely, right? It comes with a nice playmat instead of the tiny one that we got in Gravy Bones. This is wonderful. I can't remember if it's double-sided. It was such a nifty product when it first came out. It looks to be double. Yes, it is. So it's a 2-player mat, which is fantastic because obviously it's 2 decks. The only thing is the cards that you actually get in the decks. They could have been a little bit more generous, right? So it's a nice little box, nice little playmat to get you started. I'm not in Singapore. I don't have endless money. No, I allot myself generally 1 to 2 trips a year, and that is usually to see family. It is still not cheap traveling over Australia, for reference. Yeah, Classic Battle's fantastic. We're also not getting bundles anymore, which sucks because I think the Super Slam artwork would be a beautiful playmat. Hopefully it surfaces. But yeah, I think this was the right size, right? 2 little nifty decks to play. I guess they'd have to play favorites though with sets. Nice little playmats. Did I somehow miss the little booklet? I'm sure there was a booklet, wasn't it? Oh, I've put it up here. Family is in Victoria. God, what's the other one? I want to say Western Australia, and then I'm in Queensland. So I'm at, where's my hands? I'm at the top. One's down here, and like far down too as well, because it's not Melbourne, Victoria. It's another city. It's actually further than that city. It's Geelong, right? So very, very far. And then I guess up here-ish would be West Australia, right? And again, Australia's massive. If I want to drive, it would be 22 hours, I believe, which I used to. And then petrol got nuts. It became cheaper to fly. And then also my dog has had surgery, which was a unforeseen bill. But oh well. You do what you got to do for your loved ones, right? But yeah, it sucks because actually I wouldn't have minded Singapore since it is, a close one for once. Oh well. Plus, they come with the Cold Fall Heroes fantastically. Yes, but we do Christmas every year. And in that sense, it's also, I have lots of pets. I have a dog, 2 cats, a turtle, a lizard, and a snake. I guess that's not necessary. Oh well. Not the end of the world not going to things. Right? You can live vicariously. World not going to things. Right? You can live vicariously. Oh, beautiful. Yeah, so this does come with some nice equipment stuff. Oh, it's still a bit jittery. The nice little bone basher, which I think is the idea that this is decent in Tough Nut. Get what other clubs he has. Wrecker Romp. You have to hit the discard, I suppose. But there's no rationale not to just have Romping Club, right, instead of Bone Basher. But it's still nice little starting cold form for your collection. And is Bone Visor? I feel like Bone Visor was exclusive. So that's all reprints, but Bone Visor. I think it was 1 piece each. And there's cards as well. When Bone Visor is destroyed, reveal the top card of your deck. There's 6 or more, put it on the top of your deck, otherwise put it on the bottom. So I'd see something like that was a little bit more reusable as Tough Nut would be nice, right? And then they also have the Mentor cards, which resurfaced, right, in Arachne, so they are still a thing. They are cool thematically, but they are only Blitz legal, and they won't be Project Klloo, right, because they're all Majestics. Alpha Rampage, that's worthy enough. Feel like Beast Mode was only in this, but I might be wrong. I'm probably wrong. I'm usually wrong. Was until Heavy Hitters, from the looks of it. Awesome Rhino stuff. I don't think that the Rhino deck was anything excessively juicy. Right? Or not. Yeah. But still some nice stuff. Stuffed-ish stuff. Oh, being rattled around. But then the Dorinthia deck. Right, so equipment-wise, Gallantry Gold's a nice piece, but yeah, nothing necessary. Quicksilver Prodigy, so unlike Reiner, actually retooled slightly. So Reiner's still the discard to Intimidate, just with some nice artwork. Dorinthia, Quicksilver Prodigy, first time Dawnblade Resplendent. Gains go again each turn, you may attack with an additional time, right? So a little bit easier to trigger. Not necessarily worthwhile, but definitely more player-friendly, right? So you also have Dawnblade Resplendent instead of normal Dawnblade. And the second time you attack with it, it gains +1, right? So a nice little starting kit of weaponry. Her mentor, right? And then, is it Glistening? I think it's Glistening. Glistening and the run-throughs, right? They're the big things from this deck, I believe. Run through. And Glistening is definitely a lot better than Alpha Rampage. Yeah. Run through is only this or a promo. That alone is why I have to open another one. So I have in my initial one from when I opened and played with my partner. And now I need one more. Right? And then, yeah, I don't think anything else substantial. No. Just the titanium bubbles. I do also like the little art cards for the heroes. They're kind of cool. But yeah, just the inclusions, right? And the little info cards also really nice. I feel like I have the Iron one somewhere here. But I feel like, yeah, this wasn't as good. Which is kind of weird, because we come off of the gravy high, if you will. I mean, there was sinks in it, which was definitely nice. That's the QR code, right? To go to the quick thing. Yeah, Glistening Steelblade. Fantastic. That's probably a key reprint that is worthwhile as well, right? It does feel like they might have to, at some point, if they are, community focused enough, go through all the extra stuff like this, all the stuff that, was in fringe products here or there, and put them in something, right? Because Glistening, I don't think it's as crazy as it once was, But you basically bought this for glistening back then. It's $14 now, which is still pretty crazy, right? But yes, the only way to get your copies of glistening, unfortunately. It also means there's no foil, and they've never done a promo. I do have to open one more, so I have my playset. Good thing I bought 4. One to hold on to. But yeah, even like just all the information on the box. This was really great, and I was so saddened that they didn't continue with it. Especially because it was part of the Fab 2.0 spiel. Yeah, Civic Step. Till we get that Guardian piece as well. I'm hoping that the events are just basic enough that, you know, you can just run it if you want in around the table. And then, yeah, hoping we get, you know, maybe a yearly thing. Maybe a little bit more often. Maybe just, you know, some Christmas fun, right? The Tremor, no, was it generic? Boots, they're good too. Oh, right, yeah, quick dodge fixes. Yes, it's weird to think that the budget alternative to quick dodge flexes though is a product exclusive. Let's see, what are Civic Steps? They're not bad. Well, in the scheme of things, they are pretty bad. It's $8. I mean, it's Blade Break, but I feel like they could have given the Tremor Shield Sabatons, the one from the Hunted, 2-block. Because it's still either or. Either you get the Arcane Prevention or you block. Then it'd be a little bit better. I might as well keep these and put them aside. And the run-throughs. And then everything else you can find elsewhere. But yeah, there's lots of like testing products. It's sad to see them go away because they were just, if they were just refined a little bit more, I think it could have been great. But yeah, this was definitely a wonderful entry product. It's a shame, even with the welcome decks, even if they, you know, kept Ira and did some sort of, you know, they could probably make it a cheaper one, but some sort of, you know, beginner playmat, and grab 2, grab an Ira, grab a Bravo, and rope someone into the game. I think that would have been cool. But alas, streamlining, right, for product development and everything. I mean, that's the other thing you got to rationalize. They're not a big company. They don't have infinite resources to just print willy-nilly. Takes thought and planning. Yeah. That was cool, having the full Civic set for preference. But I think that'll do me. I think it's time to go shopping. Almost lunch. But there we go. Still some cool stuff on the horizon. Maybe going into the Master Pack Guardian with the unknown. I was gonna say Aura Suspense. It's kind of cool. Was Ira made for new player entry, the Armory deck, to clarify? I believe so. I feel like all the Armory decks have been really focused in the sense of trying to show off what the deck does well, right? And then be that stepping stone for you to grab a certain level of cards and put them into the deck. I mean, the Ira Welcome deck itself never really got an update, so it's just been the practice version of the game for the longest time. But there are also, like, oh god, we can go back. The upgrade your deck page, I do feel, can sometimes be a little bit what's the word? not as great. I don't know what word I'm trying to say. Not as great as it could be, right? Like if you're gonna, for instance, present Sigil of Solace, why not just put Sigil of Solace in the deck, right? Here's your upgrade. Why not just give it, right? There's an Angie pot in there, which I think is the most useless piece. I mean, it's probably workable with the Edge of Autumn shenanigans, but yeah, they could be a little bit easygoing on what they choose to put in there and reprint. I mean, like the give and takes could have been ancestral empowerments, 2 ancestral empowerments, but there has been some worse ones. I think I looked into it once, right, and like added up everything they suggest in the upgrade your deck and then on the hero page. And there was some shocking ones where you buy the deck for 60 and then LSS themselves are recommending, $300, $500 worth of upgrades. There's Ira. And there's nothing egregious here in terms of recommendations. Well, yes. You don't necessarily need it in the same sense you don't necessarily need the energy pod. At least it does something defensively. But there's so many of us who have just been, just give us a sideboard, just give us a sideboard, just give us 3 cards, give us 6 cards that allow us to get that idea of what you need to swap in and out for matchups, right? And a little sheet of paper, or even just the QR code that says, going into Wizard, do this. Going into Guardian, do this, right? Would be cool, because to really encompass the starting experience of Fab, it's not just playing. Like, deck construction is such a huge thing when it comes to the Flesh and Blood, right? And having those toolkits and knowing what toolkits are applicable to what matchups is really important. And I think any way they can sort of teach that and advance that would be great. Problem is, it's not at this point, right? Unless it ties directly into a new set like Gravy or Pleiades, then it's not technically more money. Or do you mean more money in the sense of printing? Typo cards tend to be expensive for Fab. Well, that's sort of the weird thing, right? Because you can make a budget sideboard. Obviously, it's significantly less effective, and sometimes it's detrimental because you're taking out what mechanically works well in the deck for a lesser variant of something for a specific matchup. But again, to me, it's not necessarily about hitting it out of the park mechanically, because at the end of the day, it is an armory deck. It is an armory deck in a very skillful game that rewards both skill and having a fully tuned deck. So the armory decks don't have to be top performing unless, Alice wanted them to, and they don't, again, because of the money basis. They could at least try to help with the skill expression aspect by teaching the different aspects of the game. That's my take, at least, right? Same with why I think, even though I was not legal in Blitz, and that's been brought up a while, it still should have been Blitz legal, and it should have still been, sorry, not Blitz legal, it should still have been the Blitz/CC, and all of them should be, and they should all have that indication of, these are the cards you want to take out. Even if it is just cut 3 copies to 2, it's still something you're teaching to a new player, right? If you're going to cut all the extra auxiliary products, like the classic battles, the blitz decks, or anything like that, then the product you have on the shelf should encompass all, right? And it's very streamlined for them to do it as well, because for the majority of it, they can just print the cards a certain way. But even chucking in, an extra piece of null rune, or a lesser piece of equipment that is a good switch would have been great. I think the worst monetary part of Fab is Mask Momentum / Flick Knife Start. Play, stay and play mechanically unique cards that just don't have printing to access. Flick Knife's definitely a weird one, because obviously it was dirt cheap. It was, I think, second worst legendary from Outsiders, right? Because it just didn't have that mechanical use yet. It was okay applying the debuffs from the daggers. And that, I actually like that aspect, the ebbs and flows of cards being great and bad. I mean, again, my I just like having all the cards to play with, so I don't speculate or buy a whole bunch of stuff. But yeah, there are certain things that should kind of warrant if this is going to be great. Maybe we steer things there and make it a little bit easier. But yeah, and it's the whole how much respect is on the secondary market. Should there be that much? It's not necessarily why I talk about my channel. There are great financial channels out there that cover flesh and blood, right? I like the mechanics, but I will advocate for ease of access. We'll go with, right. So yeah, the Armory deck, just teaching what to take out for blitz and having some level of sideboard, even if it's just teaching mechanically to sideboard in and out, would have been fantastic, right? And other note from that is I am hoping we get counters, because they're doing counters in Smash Palace, and it seems like it should just be something tucked into the Armory deck, right? And I don't know, $5 bump wouldn't be the end of the world if you're giving all those counters and dice, because yeah, Fab is definitely becoming more and more of a countery game, right? When you have so many buffs in Ira that you do want to keep track of. It's another thing. It's a habit if you teach at the start, it'll reward more and more players, because then that new player does it, and then that new player represents all the information correctly to the other player. The other player can then read if they're a new player, and they can develop those skills. So a lot of that stuff, a lot of that skill expression to me ends up lost over time, because it just becomes natural habits, right? We can look at the pitch stack, we can look at what cards being played, and we ourselves can go, well, that's how many resources you have left. They could have printed a new Ira Blitz and unbanned Edgewater, right? Yeah, they could have done that as well, yeah. But we're getting Bravo. So enjoy Bravo. I mean, the new Bravo does kind of look cool. Easy enough to utilize. Alright. Almost 2 hours. So I think we'll leave there. Anyone hanging about in chat? Thanks as always. Other than that, day 2 should be starting soonish, I think. I feel like it's in the afternoon. Go watch Singapore. Maybe we get some more information. Maybe we get Mastery, Pack Guardian stuff. But we'll leave there.